Newcomb Construction is a family-owned design-build general contractor. We work using the concrete tilt-up method. We cast our own concrete wall panels on the job site, and then we tilt them up. What I really love about our job is working with the clients. They strategize and dream for their own company. We're part of it.
Great turnout on this April morning. We're very appreciative. I want to start by thanking our sponsors, the Burrish Group at UBS, Newcomb Construction, WPS Health Solutions, the Network of Health, Technology, and Innovation, Godfrey Kahn Law, and our partners, the Edgewater, Hinckley Productions, and Cargo Coffee. We'd also like to welcome a major new sponsor this month, American Family Insurance. In a minute, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Nate Pokras. Nate is the Executive Director of the Steve Stricker American Family Insurance Foundation. But before I bring Nate up for a minute, we're going to show a very brief video.
I would describe TPC Wisconsin as tight when it's in full bloom in the summertime. The fescue grass is bright yellow, but it's challenging. There's a lot of water, and if you stray too far from the fairways, you're going to pay the price. It's something that's not anything like anything in our area. There's a marsh system right next to it, so we brought that natural beauty right into the golf course. And there's holes that you can take advantage of, make birdies, so I think it's an enjoyable time as well. I would say the signature hole at TPC Wisconsin is, in my view, it's number 16. Bunkering is beautiful. It's a drivable par 4. I think we're going to see a lot of fireworks there during the tournament. Guys going for it, a lot more aggressive play. The course is going to excite the fans in a number of ways, really. It's something unique. It's something different. The team play that we're introducing this year at TPC Wisconsin is going to be super exciting for everybody, not only the players, but I think for the fans too, because we're all excited to play a team event. It's going to come across to the spectators, especially those last 4 holes. We have the opportunity to put spectator seating in areas where you can not only watch like 16, you can watch the green and what guys are doing into 16 green, and then turn right around and watch 17 T-ball, which is a par 3 over water. So there's going to be a lot of drama and excitement playing formats that's going to lead to good scoring. So all in all, it's an exciting year. We're going to a brand new golf course, something different for the players, better shots, and guys having fun with it.
Good morning. I'm Nate Pokras, Tournament Director of the American Family Insurance Championship, and as you can see in the video, we're excited to welcome back the PGA Tour champions back to Madison this June, and then in a short 45 days ahead. The 9th edition of the AmFam Championship sets forth a new chapter for us as the tournament, and we introduce 2 significant new elements to the event. First, as Steve Stricker noted, we're moving the tournament from University Ridge over to TPC Wisconsin on the north side of Madison. Second, we're implementing a team competition format that's sure to bring a lot of new energy from the golfers, which will create low scoring and certainly exciting action for all the fans. While there are many new elements to the tournament this year, the core objective of our event remains the same: local economic and charitable impact to the greater Madison area. Fans, volunteers are representing 41 different states. We have over 100 operational partners and vendors from around the country. PGA Tour champions golfers representing 15 different countries, of course, including our Madison zones, Jerry Kelly and Steve Stricker, all of whom are descending on Madison, and which have created over $100 million economic impact to the greater Madison area since 2016. But most importantly, all our tournament proceeds are donated back to area charitable organizations, including American Family Children's Hospital. Since 2016, we've distributed over 1,000 grants, totaling nearly $20 million. We thank all our fans, our sponsors, our volunteers for their generous commitment to the AmFam Champ. And certainly we want to invite all of you to join us this year as well. So on the table, you will find vouchers for complimentary tickets to the tournament. We look forward to seeing all of you in attendance and joining us. So thank you for your time. We're looking forward to an exciting event ahead, as I said, 45 days ahead, and we welcome back the PGA Tour champions to Madison. Thank you, and enjoy your morning.
Thanks, Nate. It's just wonderful to have American Family with us for this event. Well, today's speaker is Wendy Perkins, President and CEO of WPS Health Solutions. And as usual, our moderator is Mark Richardson, President of Unfinished Business Consulting. In the interest of time, you can get more biographical information on the handout at your table, and more will come up in this discussion. So thank you, Wendy, for being here again, and take it away, Mark. Thank you.
Welcome to Wendy. Thank all you guys for being here. I always do this. First time at the breakfast, hands up. First time. All right. I like it. Ooh.
Check, test. Should I ask the question again? No, you heard me. Is your mic on?
Working?
Done. And again, a thank you to Wendy. And it seems like a long time coming for this conversation. You agreed to be a guest, last year? End of last year?
Correct.
So it seems like forever. It's a good thing nothing's changed since then.
Yeah.
So we'll just let that sit for a second. So for the folks who know the WPS, maybe the name and the brand, but don't really know what it is you guys do, can you give us some insight?
Absolutely. So we are headquartered here in Madison, and we are a regional health plan. So when you think of your commercial health insurance, that would be us, as well as we're a fairly large Medicare supplement player here in the state of Wisconsin. That is about half of our business. The other half is we are a federal contractor. We've been in federal work since the 1950s. Supporting our military, and we continue to do that. So we support active duty military, we support military and their families that are overseas, and then we support retired militaries. So we have contracts directly with the Defense Health Agency, which is part of the Department of Defense, and we process claims for the care that they receive outside of a military treatment facility. And then we have also been a Medicare contractor since the inception of that program in the 1960s. And so we are what's called a Medicare administrative contractor in 2 of the national regions. And so I think that's what most people don't realize about us, is how connected we are to the federal government.
Yeah, thank you for that. So you've been with the company how long now?
Oh, goodness. I'm coming up on 9 years.
9 years.
Joined in the fall of 16.
Okay. All right, 9 years. And I think just in the interest of time, Paul kept the intro short, but you were named president and CEO in Q1 of 23.
Correct. Yes. I just had my 2-year anniversary.
And the first woman to lead the company.
Correct. Yes.
So as you took the helm, what was the priority? What was the number one thing you wanted to get done?
Yeah. From a pure kind of business perspective, it was to honestly kind of stabilize the organization. Obviously COVID had a big impact on health insurers. And so we had a couple of tough financial years, and so we had to address some issues there rather quickly. So that was kind of number one. But also at the same time, I knew there was a real need for a culture shift within the organization. And so really focused on bringing in an executive leadership team that not only had a lot of business experience within either government or within the health insurance area, but also just really dynamic leaders who were focused on people and driving culture. And so those were kind of my 2 big initiatives right out of the gate.
It's sort of succinct when you say it, but how big an undertaking was that? How long did sort of that take to build this new team that would then take the company forward? It
is a big undertaking. In fact, I just had our newest member join last week. He's in the audience. Marcus Julian just joined as our head of our health plan. And so I don't think you ever really stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
You always want to continue to drive improvements. And so, we've brought in not only new leadership as kind of my enterprise leadership team, but also throughout the organization, and we continue to do that.
Yeah.
So, we're a pretty rapidly changing industry, especially right now, and so we're always looking for new talent.
You never quite get there then,
Exactly.
right? And we talked in our conversation, our prep, we talked a lot about culture and what a huge impact that can have, good or
Absolutely.
bad, on an organization. And you worked on yours, sounds like from the day you got the job till still, right?
Yep.
But how did you know when things were heading in the right direction? Did you have sort of an aha, or the team have an aha moment where you're like, okay, now this is what I wanted to see?
Yeah. I think it's when you start to see some of the turnaround happen, right? And you have people that are engaged and want to be a part of the change that's taking place. I think that we had to kind of overcome some fear of, oh my gosh, we're gonna look different, or we're gonna feel different. Prior to COVID, we had 21 office locations, right? We're down to just a couple. And so that's a challenge in itself, to drive a culture change when you're not seeing people every day, right? And so I think it took a little longer for the employees to start to trust the new leadership, and that we were really truly behind what we were saying. And one of the things that I really focus on is just being as open as possible. My communication team is here today, and they help with that tremendously, right? And just being as honest and open as we can as to why things are going to be different and why are we changing things. So
That transparency.
absolutely.
Was that sort of a new and different way of engaging from a leadership standpoint to sort of the rank and file? Was that different?
Yeah, I think it was, in terms of talking about the organization as an enterprise as a whole. I think that there was communication taking place, but in a little more of a siloed environment. Even our various government contracts were somewhat more siloed than they are today. And so I think talking about why we do things for the good of the organization versus just one line of business was different.
Yeah. So it's not what you were doing, but more how you were doing it.
Exactly.
You said we had to learn how to be a team. And so there might be folks in attendance today that are going through succession or making some changes in their leadership. Can you share a little bit more about the journey of how did you learn to be a team?
Yeah, and I focused on that a lot, because I think when you have such different lines of business, right? Our commercial health insurance or health plan versus government, two totally different worlds, even though they're both healthcare related. And so that was how the organization was being ran, right? And so it was very siloed. And so when I brought the enterprise leadership team in, it was the focus of, you are an enterprise leader, right? When you come to the table, yes, I understand that you're representing your maybe direct line of business and you want to kind of fight for that, but you are part of the enterprise and you are leading the enterprise, and we are sometimes going to make decisions that will negatively impact one line of business because it's better for the organization as a whole. And so that was one of the things I was really looking for as I built that team, is those individuals that could be collaborative and could kind of work for the good of the organization and not just their direct line of business.
Yeah, and sometimes it's take one for the team, and maybe it'll come back around, and your silo or
Exactly.
your department will win next time around. So one of the things that stuck with me when we chatted was, and this might have been something somebody said to you, but you said leadership is a choice you make, not a place where you sit.
Yeah.
And so can you explain the context around that comment and what it means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I am not big on titles I'm not big on kind of your individual role in the organization, right? It is, how do you show up every day? How do you treat people? How do you kind of have that drive to be successful? And the curiosity. I'm really big on curiosity. It's actually, I'm going to get ahead of ourselves, but tomorrow we are announcing our new set of values, and that is one of our new values that will come out to our employees tomorrow. But it's always like, just how are you driving, to be better each and every day? And that's what I focus on. I hope that everyone in the organization feels like they can come up and have a conversation with me, right? And that I'm approachable. I really do want to hear from our employees. Some I hear from a lot. Others, I'd love to hear more. I always say, I know you think I know everything that's going on in this organization. I do not. So please share what's going well and share your concerns.
Yeah. So don't let the title scare you.
Exactly.
Right. So your doors, but you mean it, right?
Absolutely.
You absolutely mean it.
Absolutely.
So curiosity.
Yeah.
I don't have that down in my notes.
I probably didn't tell
this
you
is,
because
no,
I wasn't able to divulge them a few weeks
We're
ago.
breaking news right now. So can you share any of the other values?
Sure. So, goodness, you're going to test me here. But no,
No.
accountability is number one, right? I honestly think that that has been some of our challenge, right? I think employees were waiting to be told what to do. That's not who I want on the team, right? Any level in the organization. I want people who are actually looking to do things differently, looking to kind of challenge the status quo, and are proud of the work they do, and they want to own that. And so accountability. Curiosity is the second one. And it kind of goes along with that accountability, but it's really kind of what's the art of the possible, right? What can we do different to serve our customers, right? What are we maybe not doing the best way we can? I meet with all of our new hires every month. So whoever came into the organization gets an opportunity to chat with me and really just ask questions. I have no planned presentation. They just get to ask questions. And I always get the question of, what should I do as a new employee? And I'm always just, be curious, ask questions. We hired you because you have new, fresh ideas. And so curiosity is the second one. Authenticity is the third, right? So be yourself, right? Come to the table as yourself. I really believe that wholeheartedly, and that's how I try to show up every day. And treat people the way you want to be treated. I know we all heard that from our parents when we were young, but honestly, I think that's the best advice you can give. And then determination, right? And so kind of that drive. We always have to have a drive to be better each and every day. And so, how do we focus on serving our customers, whether it's here in the state of Wisconsin or at the federal level, but just that determination to always be better.
Yeah. So sorry to give you the pop quiz there.
Yeah, we probably have some people here that just heard them for the first time. So.
All right, good. How'd she do? Yeah, you should be nodding. She's not scary, but yes, nod. So yeah, I think when we talked, you were in the process of those were just landing, they were just and they were a long time coming.
They were. We, one of the things that we undertook last year was our new brand, right? And part of that is not, yes, I like the logo, I like the colors, the team did a great job with that, but it's really about WPS showing up different, right? We're a new company, right? I don't think people always think of WPS. I'll get the question, someone will say, what do you do? And when I say it, even here in Dane County, they're like, what's that? Yeah. I'm like, well, that's the company right on the belt line, right? And so we need to show up different in the market. We need to portray that we have the energy that I know we have inside those buildings. And so that is really a lot of the focus around that brand, is to give us that fresh, not only look, but just kind of drive within the organization. And so as we rolled out that brand, we rolled out a new mission. And we're unveiling a missions video tomorrow that, honestly, every time I watch it, I get a little choked up. So that will go to our employees tomorrow as well. And then the new values came out of that.
So this is a complete overhaul.
It is, yes, absolutely. But 2 years, right? And we're still kind of working our way through that.
Yeah. When we were talking, every day was just something new coming from DC, and I know you used to spend a lot of time out there. The language you use as you relate to the culture is very similar to the diversity, equity, and inclusion language that you hear from practitioners and in the space. It's a journey.
Absolutely.
And you never really sort of get there, you just get better at it.
Yeah.
And you have to celebrate the wins. So as you were sort of telling me about that, I thought, well, that's ringing true. And I know DEI is a big part of what you've done and what you're doing and what you continue to do. How has our current reality impacted your efforts in that space?
Yeah, it's challenging, right? To be an employer and you want all of your employees to feel like they're part of the organization and that they belong there. And yet right now we are being directed as a federal contractor that those programs need to go away, right? And so we have spent a lot of time kind of changing the way we approach our diversity and inclusion efforts, right? So we have unfortunately had to scrub all of our websites, our code of conduct, anything like that, and make sure that we're focused more on doing the right thing, right? Treating people appropriately. It doesn't at the core of WPS change anything we are doing or the way we feel, hopefully, to our employees, but we've had to kind of erase those official programs from our organization. And so the message that we're carrying to the employees is that first and foremost, we have to protect our federal contracts, right? That's half of our revenue as a company. Yeah. And then secondly, nothing's changing about the way we feel about you and the fact that we want you here and that this should be a safe environment for you to share your thoughts and your ideas. And it's tough. We had several employee resource groups. Unfortunately, we have eliminated those. And we're working to bring them back differently. And we're involving the employees in what those should be, right? And so it's been interesting. I just saw some of the survey results last night, and it was kind of exciting to see where the employees think we should focus, right? One of the top ones was like, how about an employee group focused on wellness? Well, what a cool concept as a health insurer, right? Like, absolutely, let's do that. And what was neat too is they weren't just focused on, let's figure out how to be physically active. It was mental health, which is a big thing that WPS is focused on from a community perspective, as well as financial wellness. I was pretty impressed to see that one come up as an idea. And so I think that we have to involve the employees and let them shape what we're going to look like kind of in the round 2 of those employee resource groups. But it's been really tough, and I get a lot of comments from the employees. I know that my leaders that are here are getting a lot of really tough questions, and we've had a couple of people, that were very involved in the employee resource groups. They're like, we need to fight, we need to stand up, and it's like, yeah, that's a tough platform to get on right now, right? I mean, we have to make sure that we don't have a target on our back, right? Because again, those contracts are really important to WPS. We really believe in the mission of that work and the people that we're serving there, and so that's where we have to focus.
Yeah, I appreciate your sort of your candor and how thoughtful the answer is, right? Because a lot of people don't want to talk about it, and head in the sand, it'll go away, that kind of thing. And I appreciate your, willingness, right? Target or not. Yeah. I wonder, as you spoke about how you are going to the team, the staff, and the employees, and how transparent you're being about it, I wonder if your current change or the evolution that the company's been under for the last 2 years, I wonder if that has helped the reception of what's going on now. In other words, do you think the evolution of the team and how you engage has helped you manage through this?
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, I think that the leaders that are in place, first of all, are kind of used to rapid change, right? This one was a little harder because it just kind of hits you on a personal level, right? And so I think that the entire leadership team really stepped up and kind of understood this is what we have to do. Politics aside, right? This is what we have to do as a federal contractor. And so I think that was huge. I think the employees, it's interesting. I think we have a camp of employees that are like, okay, yep, we got it, we understand. We're going to get behind this. It's another change, right? And there's been a lot of it. And then I think we have a handful of employees too that are like, I'm exhausted. This is a lot of change, right? And we do hear that. And honestly, going back to just being candid, there are at times we have to say, maybe this isn't the right place for you, right? We would love to have you here, but the change isn't going to stop, right? This is a kind of a dynamic industry. We have to react quickly to the government, and that's sometimes the decisions that the employees have to make. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but I don't want to make it sound like everything's perfect either.
Right. No. It's everything's a work in progress, right? I was going to ask about sort of attrition, right, and turnover. Whenever you come in, you have a new leader, and you start to do things differently. Sometimes people can sort of spin out. And so I was wondering, how's your retention been as you've taken over? Have you lost some folks? And if so, have you gained some folks on the backside? And how's that been?
Yeah, absolutely. And we monitor attrition rates quite a bit, especially in our call center and claims processing areas, because those are the individuals that are instrumental to our business being successful on a day-to-day basis. And surprisingly, our numbers have been pretty strong over the last 2 years. I think that call centers in general are tough, right? So we see that's probably our highest attrition area. But honestly, over the last 2 years, in terms of leadership, no, not a huge loss, especially of people leaving voluntarily. Obviously, we've made a lot of changes, and so we've had people come and go. But in terms of mass exodus out the door, that has not happened. One of the things that we really watch closely is monitoring kind of our key talent, right? Our top contributors are those individuals that are in really critical roles, that if that person walked out the door, they're leaving with a ton of knowledge. And that attrition rate is extremely low. And so that's important, right? I always tell leaders to make sure that the people on your team understand how important they are, right? And sit down and talk with them about what it will take to keep them here, right? And kind of what are their career aspirations, and how can we help them achieve that so that they can continue to develop within the organization.
Yeah.
So surprisingly, no, our numbers have held pretty strong. I think that the economy is getting a little tougher, so I don't fear attrition quite as much as I think we were, a year or two ago.
Sure. Yeah. The job hopping has slowed for sure, and that's different too, depending on your generation.
Absolutely.
Right. Like depending on how old you are, I'm not going to give anything away, but you see the gray when you're coming up. If you were in a job for less than 5 years, people are looking.
Absolutely.
They're looking sideways at you.
Yeah.
But the younger you are, that doesn't seem to sort of be the same stigma around that.
Absolutely. One thing I would say on that too, it is not unusual to talk to someone at WPS who's been here 30, 40 years. I had someone not so long ago, like 43. Just like, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty amazing, I think. So I think that speaks kind of volumes to just what the organization's about.
Yeah. When you talk about diversity, obviously you go to certain things right away, right? Race, gender, age. That seems to be the go-tos. But one of the things I don't think we're talking about enough is tenure. And when you say somebody's been there for 40 some years, and you've probably have somebody there for 3 years,
right?
That strata, I think, that's a big deal inside an organization.
Absolutely.
So when you sort of got there, and it's a funny story how you got there, and I want you to share it with everybody. But you didn't like show up going, "Up, I'm going to be president and CEO in
no.
X number of years. This is
No.
my goal."
No.
All right. So you were in the space already, so you kind of knew the company. Tell the audience how it is that you ended up joining WPS.
Yes. So I started my career at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. And so I've been in the health insurance and healthcare space my entire career. And I'm born and raised in Wisconsin. So like I said, lived in Milwaukee. I went through a bunch of acquisitions and mergers of the Blues, and I ultimately ended up ending my Blue career with Anthem, which is now Elevance. And so for the last 8 years that I was with them, I lived here in Madison. My husband's job transferred us from Milwaukee to Madison. Lived here in Madison, and I flew every single week. I left every Monday morning. I came home every Thursday night. And my daughter was born right around the time that started, that crazy travel schedule. And so when she was 8 years old, I honestly think she hated me, right? It was this weird person that showed up on the weekends, and by Sunday was angry because she was leaving again. And it really was just a struggle personally. I loved my career. I did a lot of federal work. I spent a lot of time in Baltimore and DC. It was great, but I wasn't good there, and I wasn't a good mom. So I needed to make a change. And so over about a 1.5 year period of time, my husband and I decided I was just going to be done. I was going to take a year off. I had some restrictions on what I could and couldn't do in the workspace for a year, and I was just going to sit it out. And what was funny is I knew WPS, like you said, right? I'd been on their campus many times. I had partnered with them in the federal space. I had competed head-to-head to them. They would win some, we would win some. We'd be transitioning work together. And so I was familiar with them, really thought nothing of it. Like, oh yeah, I live 15 minutes from the campus, right? But about 2 or 3 weeks prior to the announcement that was going to be made at the organization I was with, I was on a flight from Madison to Detroit with the then CEO of WPS. And I knew him well. He was a friend of someone who had been my mentor early in my career. And so her name was Sandy, and so he stopped me. He was waiting for me as I got off the plane in Detroit, and he's like, I was talking to Sandy, and Sandy was also in the industry, and he's like, we don't understand why you do what you do. He's like, why do you not work for us? He's like, why do you get on this plane every day? And I said, call me in a few months. And I thought nothing of it. 3 months to the day, I got a phone call from him, and he said, why are you not calling me yet, right? Like, he's like, I can't believe you really left, first of all. And he's like, and I want to talk to you. You should be working for us. And so I had a drink with him, and then he'd be like, you need to have a drink with the next person and the next person. And I joined as a contractor, actually, in the beginning because of the non-compete issues I had, and then was able to come on full time, and that's how it happened.
Well,
so
we should all be so lucky, right?
It was bizarre. Honestly, I really thought I was leaving the industry when I left. Like like I said, WPS wasn't even on my radar really, and it should have been. So. And
so when you joined them, again, the non-compete, so you had to contract it until you could be hired. But so when you joined, you didn't join knowing that your path was set.
No,
and
no.
that you were gonna, that you were heir apparent. That wasn't the plan necessarily.
No, not at all. Not at all. They threw me in an operational role. I'm an accountant, right? Ops is really, really hard, and I was not good. And so that was pretty short-lived. And then they moved me into a shared services role. And looking back at it, I probably should have been a little brighter. Like, oh, they're just bouncing me through the organization. But, or I wasn't doing a good job, I'm not sure. But I got moved around a lot and just kind of kept increasing my areas of responsibility. And then one day, just out of the blue, the CEO said to me, have you ever thought about being a president and CEO? And I said, nope. He goes, that's the right answer. Nobody should ever say that, yes, that's what they're looking for. And so that was kind of my first inkling that I was being looked at as part of the succession plan. But even when he announced his retirement, it was a full search. I mean, the board and they actually talked to me. I think they were nervous, like, you do understand we're going to go external, and absolutely, I hope you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you want to win the job.
Absolutely.
Right.
So well, yeah.
Or at least you thought you wanted to win the job. And
most days I love it.
Right. Well, and isn't that kind of the funny part is they were looking at you in that role before you were looking at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that role.
Yep.
And I would imagine you're probably doing some of that now yourself.
I absolutely am. Yes.
Where are your two tables?
Right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of strange, right? I've been in the role for 2 years, but I think I owe it to the organization to make sure that we're developing the next round of leaders. And, I want someone to want my job, honestly.
Yeah.
And as a CEO, I think you hope that you have that person, right, on your team. Because to me, that's kind of being able to say that, I left my mark. I gave that person the opportunities to grow in the organization and take the reins.
Right.
So, yeah, so there's a lot of work that goes on with that.
Your job is to coach them up and get them ready.
Yeah.
So it's curious. You said you're about ready to sort of walk away from the whole deal, at least for a time.
Yeah.
Because your daughter was at that age where 8 years old, they shouldn't be hating you till 12.
I know, and now she's leaving. I would not be able to do this in a couple months. I'm going to be a mess. She leaves for college in September, so.
Does she know where she's going?
She is going to Drake.
Uh-oh.
In Des
I think
Moines.
we have a Drake grad here.
Yeah, we got Paul over here, who's a Drake grad. So yeah.
So she's not going to be that far away.
That's a rough drive though to Des Moines.
To Des Moines. There's no hills. But you're right.
There's nothing.
It's long. It's long and it's flat. So tell me this, and get your questions ready because as you guys know, well, for the newbies, a microphone will be passed around. So if you have questions for Wendy, for sure, get them ready. I wonder, as you thought about stepping away, is that a uniquely woman or female struggle as it relates to the work? Like you said, you loved your career, but here you were having to essentially make a choice between your career and being a mom.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think moms probably play a certain role, especially with a young daughter. But honestly, my husband is a huge part of why I am where I am in my career, right? He worked at home before it was even really a concept. He's in sales. Since he was in his 20s, he's worked out of our house. He always was kind of the primary caregiver. Mm-hmm. And so it is not at all that she wasn't well taken care of. It was me.
No, you
right?
It was the guilt.
It was just me feeling so guilty. And like I said, I was so bad at both towards the end, right? Yeah. I'd be fine Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, kind of in the job, and then Thursday, I get to go home. Friday was okay, and then by the weekend, you're mad you're leaving again. Yeah. So, I mean, it was bad enough that I didn't even really have to pack. I would leave things at the hotels, and they would store them in their closets behind the front desk, right? I have more Marriott points than I know what to do with. So they, I mean, it just, I don't think it's necessarily unique to male versus female. It's just hard. I think anyone that's away from their kids that much, it's really tough. And I hope I'm sensitive to that with the team now, right? I mean, we have a lot of employees at WPS that do not live in Wisconsin. And that really changed over the last 5 years. And so I have a compassion, I think, for them to, like, family is first, and we'll figure the rest out.
Right. That's evolved, right? That's what's up. How many employees currently? And then how many are here versus distributed?
Yeah, it changes pretty rapidly. So I think we're at about just shy of 2,000 right now. So we were in December at about 2,500. One of those government contracts we've been transitioning out. We've known for 3 years that we were transitioning out, but it's the reality is hit, and so a lot of those jobs have left us over the last quarter. Not many of them were here in Wisconsin, so a lot of them were Southern Illinois, where we have a location, and then we had an office out in Virginia, and so several of them were located out there. Here in Dane County, actually I don't even look at it as a county, we look at it as about a 50-mile radius, because as we talk about more and more people coming into the office, that's kind of the radius that we focus on.
Yeah.
Maybe 600 in that area.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I said, I think we're in someone's got to keep me honest, 26 states, 23 states, something like that, where we have employees.
Yeah, okay. We were talking earlier, you guys sort of got on my radar back in maybe 2012-ish, something like that,
Yep.
2013, when it was announced that a contract wasn't going to come your way, and you're going to be downsizing, right? And it was
Yep.
going to really impact the campus out
Yes.
on Broadway. So tell us a little bit about the campus and what has happened out there, and how many buildings are you still in, and what's going on?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think as you drive past on the Beltline and you look at WPS, everyone thinks it's just the one like 4-story building, right, that has the name on it. There are actually 4 buildings in there, and it was in campus, and Andrew here is our facilities lead, and he's done a tremendous amount of work in helping us shape the campus for what we need in the future. So early in COVID, we actually sold it was the largest building to One City Schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a charter school on that campus, which is, I love seeing the kids outside playing and doing different things. And so that was great that we were able to downsize that. And that really, even, like I said, was kind of in the works prior to COVID and wasn't so much focused on remote work. It was just we were working differently, and over time had moved several of the jobs outside of Madison just because of where we could hire the type of experience that we needed. On Monday evening of this week, we closed on another building, and so if you drive past the campus, as of yesterday morning, they wasted no time. Trees are coming down, and I expect to see the building furthest west on our campus to come down soon. And it was announced quite some time ago, Topgolf is going up. So that will be a little different, right, for us to see that. But honestly, I'm excited for Monona and that, south side of Madison. I think it's going to be great just in kind of stimulating some growth around that area. So Andrew and his team led an effort to remodel that big building in the middle and make it conducive for that to be now the one and only building that we are in. And so it's cool. It's pretty neat, the work they've done. We've really focused on what it takes to have more collaborative work environments, less offices, that sort of thing. So we have that building, and then we have one other that is right at the front of the campus that we actually don't have any employees in right now. And then I don't think many people know, but we have a building not quite 5 miles from that campus. We have a print mail facility that is actually just phenomenal. It's to me kind of the coolest thing to see because you actually see work that we produce. We process hundreds of millions of claims and payments a year. And so just to see those checks and all of the remittance advices and things go through there. Top security, it meets all of the federal requirements. And we've actually worked to turn that into its own company. It's called Data Logistics. And we are marketing that now throughout the nation as a kind of highly secure, federally compliant print and mail shop.
I came across the data, and I thought, is it a spin-off? Or I'm glad you mentioned it because I wasn't sure kind of how that fit.
Yeah, no, it's work we've always done, right? And now it's like, wow, we do this really well. And a lot of industries need those federally compliant shops.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we got a lot of kind of marketing campaign going on around that.
Cool. And get your questions ready. Got a question? Yep. Questions from the audience? I have a bunch more, but I know you guys must have some, and I was reminded last time, let the audience ask some questions, Mark. Well, that is the furthest away person from her.
Oh, I told you no questions
told you I was gonna
earlier.
ask you
Of
at least
course,
one.
it's Ruben.
I told Mark, I said, moving me further away from the stage is not going to stop me from asking a question. I'm Ruben Anthony with the Urban League of Greater Madison. I really like your communication style, and your express management style is very comforting. But I want to ask you questions. You did talk about DEI, and DEI has a couple of dimensions. One dimension now in the current environment is the business decision. And you said, we can't afford to lose the federal funding. And I hear that because we have to deal with that too as a nonprofit.
Right.
But then the second part is the value decision. Will you still value equality, and what will be your approach to supplier diversity and diversity in hiring?
Yeah, no, so absolutely. Like I said, it doesn't change who we are as an employer, and the way that we treat our employees and ask kind of all of our employees to work together. And so that is not going to change. And while we can't call those programs, a DEI program, we still have staff focused, on inclusion efforts and being able to engage both our current employees, new employees coming in, right, as well as vendors and partners that we want to work with. It's going to be tough, right? Because our websites, someone looking at us, an external, candidate coming in, they might not see it, so obvious, on the internet sites. But I think it's the way we approach the entire process, and our people team being able to engage, and what are they able to talk with candidates about if they're looking at the organization. But no, I mean, I'd actually said to Mark when we were talking, like, I want a few questions around this, right? Because I want people to understand here in Madison that what WPS does, so you understand some of the decisions we might have to make, but also that we are all about making sure that our employees feel valued and comfortable at our company. So thanks for the question. It's tough. And I recognize too, as I've talked to other leaders in the area, WPS isn't necessarily unique. Yes, we are a large federal contractor here, but everyone's impacted in some way right now with what's going on. It could be grants that people receive. Just it's tough. There's a lot of not-for-profit here. WPS is actually not-for-profit, which that never came up as well. But I think we're all experience the impact some way.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, good answer on diversity, equity, and opportunity now. That's the new term. I've been believing in that for 25 years, but I think it's like religion. I believe it really strongly. I just keep it to myself, but I practice it. The question I have is, insurance business is a tough business, right? It's not really a growth business. And so it's kind of like Wisconsin used to have 100,000 dairy farms. Now we have 7,000 or 8,000 dairy farms.
Right.
Accounting firms, when I was in college 50 years ago, there was the Big 8. Now there's a Final 4. You guys have had to shrink, right, because of the business you're in. But you said you worked in a company where we did a lot of acquisitions. So is that opportunity there for you guys to grow through acquisition the next 5 or 10 years? Because if you don't, I don't know how you're going to grow.
I hope it's in the next year.
Okay. So yeah, so you agree with that. That's the only way to grow is you have to do acquisitions, because other insurance companies have to be in the same jam.
Yeah.
That there's no growth. We have to consolidate and get efficient.
Yeah, there's a couple things I think to look at there. I mean, Yes, there's only so many people in the state of Wisconsin, right, that we can insure. So it comes down to what percentage of the market share can you try to get, right? And I always think there's opportunity there. And I think that as WPS is looking to approach the market different and different products that we are able to offer, that will open up some doors to grow kind of, just organically. But we are very focused on diversifying what we look like as a company. And that I don't want people to walk out of here going, oh my gosh, they're leaving healthcare. No, that's not what I'm getting at. But I think we need to look at how else can we use our expertise and what might we be able to acquire in terms of capabilities that allows us to grow differently. We have some limitations in that there are certain things we can only do in the state of Wisconsin because of the way we're licensed. There's a lot of other things that we can do throughout the nation. And so we are definitely focused on that. One of the members of my team is, she's not here today, but she's the Chief Growth and Strategy Officer, and really focused on what does WPS look like in 3, 5, 10 years from now. So yeah, thank you for the question.
Hi, Angie Ingraham with True North Patient Advocates, a healthcare navigation company. Thank you for your comments and your insights. I'd love to hear more about your remote work policy and structure. You've talked a lot about restructuring your physical offices and how you've built culture with a remote work policy.
It's really hard. The culture side of it. There's a bit of debate going on right now because I would love to have more people in the office. And it's tough because I need a lot of you to do the same thing, right? Because right now you got to be careful how hard you push on that in Madison, because people will go to where they can continue to work remote. So it's tough. When we opened up the newly remodeled building in early January, we've encouraged people within a certain radius of the office to be in 2 days a week. That kind of more mandatory from a leadership perspective. And so we're slowly kind of getting our feet under us there. And it's tough when you have so many employees that don't work near an office. So it's kind of like, how do you keep that fair, right? And so it's a struggle. I don't have the perfect answer. But like I said, we're trying to make the office as engaging as possible. We have an area that honestly, it feels like Starbucks, right? You don't have anyone serving you your coffee, but Andrew's put in a really fancy coffee machine. It's amazing how many people come in for a good cup of coffee, right? And so, but it's neat. It's, it has booths and allows people, I'm surprised how many people sit there and have their conversations at the table with each other. So it's figuring out how to connect differently with employees. I am super excited. Tomorrow is going to be our first, we call them employee sync-ups, where myself and the rest of the executive team connect with our employees, usually 2 to 3 times a year, give them the opportunity to ask questions. Tomorrow is the first one since 2020 that will be in person. And so I think that's going to be exciting. One thing, though, that I will say is that we aren't looking to bring everyone back, right? I said we had 21 offices. I think we're down to 4. I don't have space to bring everyone back. And I don't think there's a need for, like, our claims staff and our call center staff. They're killing it at home. Our performance has never been better. And we have tools in place that allow us to monitor the work that they're doing. There's no need to bring those employees back. Now, if they want to come back in, absolutely. We will provide that. But we're really looking for the individuals that gain so much from being together at times. I don't envision a 5-day-a-week requirement to be in the office, though. I just don't. I think we have to meet people where they're at, and that work-life balance is important as well.
Hi. Not too close. Hi, Chris Walker, Tandua Technical Partners. I really enjoyed some of the insights that you had into some of the leadership challenges you had wanting to make such a sweeping culture change. And I was curious if you could speak to something that's really important to us and myself is not just how you lead, but obviously you have to lead through leaders. And I guess what were some of the challenges and insights you had into developing and driving that change amongst the leaders that you lead, and sort of how you came with that?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I probably had a little bit of a benefit, right? Being an internal candidate, I knew kind of the leadership around me, right, going into it. And I made some tough decisions, right? Some people that I honestly was friends with, right, that I just didn't see being able to lead the way I wanted the organization to be led going forward. And so I really looked at who did I think could kind of lead at all levels, lead from an enterprise perspective, and where there were gaps, I brought new talent in, right? And then those leaders that came in have really over the last 12 to 18 months kind of focused on the next levels down in the organization. And so again, I think it's that message, right? Kind of that consistent message going out and being really candid with people, right? Either broadly through communications to all employees or one-on-one conversations to say, hey, this is where I think you need, to make some changes. We need to consider, is this the right place for you? And so again, tough conversations, but I just see the benefit of the team that is in place now. And so I think it's just continuing to stay focused on that and sharing at all levels what the expectation is. I think that, that accountability piece is critical, right? But people have to understand what your expectations are out of the gate. So, but yeah, I don't know if that helped you, but okay.
Good question. One more. Yeah, we got time for one more.
Hi, Steve Mintz, Houston Design. I worked at WPS on Park Street 30-something years ago in college, printing claims forms and other documents off microfilm.
Yes.
So technology obviously has come a long way.
Oh, you'd be surprised some of the things we still get.
What types of changes in technology do you see WPS utilizing in the next few years?
Yeah, well, obviously AI is probably the biggest, right? And so we've been doing some work around that quite a bit over the last year, and our tech leader spending a lot of time with the business leaders, right, to understand, you can put a shiny object in there, but what is it going to accomplish, right? And so a lot of just collaboration around what do we need to be doing. We need to step up our game from like the customer experience perspective, right? I think that's where we see some of the most rapid changes. And remember, we have active duty military that are 18 years old, right? And probably the best technology users ever. And then we have the 90 plus Medicare member. And so it's really understanding what are the different needs, but we have to get better at that because it's changing so rapidly. And especially as the senior population is much more tech savvy every day, right? And so we need to deliver better there. And I think AI can help with a lot of that as well. We run massive claims systems, right? So one part of our business, we actually have an external vendor. One of those systems is provided by the federal government. The other one we do on our own. And you'd be surprised, it's still an old green screen, right? When you look at it, but those mainframes can process a lot of claims really fast. But we're looking at like, how do we do that more efficiently, right? And so I think we're always looking for that. And I think we have to be really honest with ourselves. Should we build it? Should we fix it? Or should we look to have someone else do that for us? And I think we're a lot more open to those partnerships than we used to be. And I think we have to be, honestly, because we're not a technology company, right? And where might we be able to do that better outside of WPS? So, but you would be very surprised how much paper we still get. But we convert everything to an electronic format. So that's a lot of what happens through data logistics. So.
Great questions. I think that brings us to time. Will you guys join me in thanking Wendy for being here?